It's a pleasure to chat with you today, Brett. And I was wondering if your ears were ringing last summer, because I was talking about you. I was in Edmonton and I had the chance to interview the Trews, and they had tremendous praise for you because you had just produced their new album, which wasn't out yet at that time. But before we get into your new project, I was wondering, just to tie that loop, I guess, I was wondering what that experience was like for you to work with the Trews and get into producing.
It was awesome. I did it with my bandmates and my brother Jay and Steve, and the Trews basically found our band. Like, John Angus is like basically the guy who, I don't think basically, he is the guy that gave us our start in music. So it was gigantic to kind of have that full circle moment, I think, especially for Jay, because Jay was like a huge fanboy of the Trews. He saw them in Vegas. He saw them in Kingston a ton. Like, he'd been singing their praises since I was old enough to remember. When he was in high school, he used to watch them and whatnot. So yeah, it was absolutely awesome. And then you get in the studio, and working with them was so easy because of how amazing of a band they are. And your job just is not really that hard, producing the Trews, because by the end it ended up being a bunch of kind of live off the floor stuff. And Colin sings like 3 times and he's got the tune done and in the bag. And yeah, so it was an amazing experience. I'm not really like the type of producer that's going to go in there and make complete magic happen. I'm kind of like a guy who, if I love something, I can put time into it and try to represent it best with sound. And they made it very, very easy. Just love those guys.
Yeah, that's cool to hear, because I know they were like, we never knew that Brett Emmons was going to be the producer that we needed, but they were like, but he was. So I just wanted to share that with you, because I thought that was pretty cool when they talked about it.
Like, even 3 years ago, they were thinking to themselves, like, yeah, Brett should produce, because that would have been really weird of them. Like, I'm not really knowing. That's not really my calling card, is my musical ability.
But hey, man, you did it, and it's in the past, I know, and they're appreciative of it, I know for sure. But let's get back to now. Definitely exciting times for you. Your debut solo record, Cabin Fever, coming out at the end of the month, end of April. But it's not under Brett Emmons. It's under the moniker John Shambles. So I have to ask you, who is John Shambles?
Well, I just kind of thought it would be really stupid to take all this time and start this new project and just use Brett Emmons. I just felt like that was just kind of lacking in creativity. And who's John Shambles? I mean, he is me. It's always weird starting a new project and being vulnerable and showcasing, I guess, for lack of a better term, my feelings in the way that I do on the John Shambles project. And I think it was a lot easier just having like a different moniker. And yeah, it kind of started as a nickname from one of our first guitar players, Andrew Younger, and he would call me John Bremmons when I would get really drunk, because I would start like yelling like a boomer and like kind of like take the world to rights, and that was his nickname for me. And then Shambles has always been this kind of name that I use in writing stories and whatnot, and it's a bit of a, I guess, a very loose crackpot philosophy that I hold, in a sense, with the imperfection of life and whatnot, and I just kind of tied them together.
Well, I love it. So, and I'm wondering too, when you're taking on that project and that name, I guess, did it kind of free up a little bit to, like you mentioned already, kind of to be, more vulnerable, but having that perspective or that mindset that this was the project, did it let you kind of tap into something that you don't normally do?
The name didn't help at all. Like, the name, I was thinking about it until, like, I think, like, probably a month before we released the album, I was kind of batting names back and forth. At one point, I was going to call the project Cabin Fever. Like, that was going to be the actual name of it. But then my girlfriend was like, "You're an idiot. Call it John Shambles." Yeah, no, the freeing up thing only comes after time. It comes with just kind of, you just have to keep on gutting it out and putting the words down on paper and whatnot. And it's not really that hard when you're songwriting, because pressure comes when you go to release it. That's when you start to get actually scared about shit. When you're actually songwriting, except for some very rare occasions, I never really think to myself like, oh no. It's more, I start thinking when my friends are going to hear it, like my buddies who I, go on camping trips with and stuff, like, I'm just like, man, I'm such a wuss. Like, what is wrong with me? And I'm like waking up and like, I'm thinking of what my friend Mo is going to say to me when I see him. And it turns out none of them care. They're just happy that I'm doing shit.
That's usually the case, right? Usually the case.
Yeah.
did you write all these together when you decided to do this project, or are these songs that you kind of had in the bag over the course of time and over years? But how did all these songs come together?
Mixed bag. So a couple of them are songs that I actually tried with the Glorious Sons over the years and just never really, they didn't turn out as well as we would have liked. So there's that, and then there's just songs that I wrote, I guess, last year or something that are on there. But yeah, mixed bag is just kind of, you can kind of feel a project taking life and what it means to you, and thematically which way it's going. And I always I kind of work on grouping things together in that way, so I can kind of make sense of a project. And it's not really even a choice, really. You just kind of your wheels start turning, and you categorize things and how they sound and where they fit. And that's kind of what I had. There was more songs even recorded for this project. Like, there's only 8 songs on the album, right?
Yeah.
While listening back to it, I could just feel that they were like, they provided a little too much, I guess, closure and hope. And I didn't think that it was that album, so I left them off.
Right.
And then I'll release them on another thing or release them as a B-side. So, yeah, I kind of think of stuff always in this kind of, like, story mode and how you want to tell it and how things fit together. And, yeah.
One thing I noticed, a lot of the promo that you're doing for these tunes is, you and an acoustic guitar singing the songs. One that jumped out to me was the first track on the album, which I got the chance to listen to, Concrete Cowboys. So I had the chance to listen to the album version. Fucking awesome tune, but it's with a full band. It's got the a full sound, great groove to it. So talk to me about that, and like who's playing on the album with you, and who helped make it happen.
It's Derek Hoffman is the producer, and like I thought about changing the name because he's so prominent in it. But I just told him, like, you can be John and I'll be Shambles. And these wouldn't have come to life without Derek. Like, a long period of time where I was just sitting on Concrete Cowboys and Game Show and just kind of adjusting to the way they sounded. It took probably, I think maybe like almost a year. Those songs had been done before I pulled the trigger on actually starting the project and finishing it. I say outlaw country, but it's not just outlaw country. I didn't want to make this kind of just acoustic kind of yell folk album. I just noticed that a lot of people were doing that, and I was starting to get kind of worn down by that sound. It had been going on for a little while, and I knew that people probably would expect that out of me, and I don't know, I just got one of those minds where if people want something, I kind of want them to want something else.
No, I love that.
I wasn't that way, but...
No, I love that, though, because, like, before I even heard any of your new music, these songs, I had that, I was like, oh, that's what he's probably going to do, right? Grab an acoustic guitar, and that'll be cool. It'll be awesome. But I was pleasantly surprised when I started listening to the full thing. I was like, oh, there's more here. I really enjoyed it when I first listened to it, for sure.
It's so grounded, I think, in like the songwriter kind of the grain sensibility, and I think we really tried to make things kind of imperfect for that reason, because we didn't go through everything with a fine-tooth comb and try to make this, you can hear how it's kind of loose is the best way I would describe it, and I think Derek wanted to preserve that kind of like, shitty part of my soul that kind of makes me. That's kind of it. It was just me and Derek, and now we got a full band running it. And
it segues into my next question, because I was going to ask you about the kind of the aesthetic of the album, and there's the wash guitars, it's well worn, kind of lo-fi. But I just mentioned to you when I heard it, or I listened to the song Landmines for the first time, and right at the start of the song, it sounds like there's kind of like a little warp in the guitar. And it immediately reminded me of a situation that I recently had. So I'll share a really quick story with you. So as I mentioned, we're working on our follow-up to our print magazine. And I was working on kind of coming up with a theme of the design for it and that sort of thing. Anyway, some inspiration kind of led us to getting a hold of an old case filled with cassette tapes, that sort of thing. And we got an old cassette player from the thrift store, and we grabbed one of my wife's old mixtapes that she had recorded when she was, probably like 12 or 13 off the radio. And we put this in, press play, and like it was a recording of a Smashing Pumpkins song. And it sounded like it was basically being pulled through like a black hole. Like everything was like elongated and, kind of distorted. And Dana told me, she was like, oh yeah, my mom cheaped out back then and bought the shitty cassette tapes from Byway. And I was like, so bringing it back to Cabin Fever, I was like, it sounds like you're leaning more towards the shitty Byway cassette vibe as opposed to kind of that crisp, clean, digital, perfect way you can do things in 2026. Huh?
Yeah, and I think it would have taken an act of God to make it sound like really good, because it's just not my plague. My plague is never like perfect. So I think he directed everything around that there's going to be some slop in there with the way that I am, and it kind of created, this sound. And, I'm pretty happy with it, to be honest, because I don't think anything really, not a lot of stuff sounds like this album. That's just because of, the people on it.
Absolutely. I agree. And that definitely comes through when you listen to the album. You've kind of touched on this as well. Like the narrative with the album is, imperfect and unpolished, but, the songwriting's really, it's relatable and captivating, like your lyrics really sound very honest and very personal.
I try to do that no matter what. I think everybody does, to be honest. Like you want people to kind of be able to understand what you're talking about. I try to be as honest as possible in my writing.
So you're going to be taking this album out on tour this spring. Stops across Ontario, Manitoba, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and definitely playing some smaller venues. So are you looking forward to more of that intimate setting?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Just excited to play. Whatever. Put me on a corner.
I've seen you perform a couple times with the Sons, and I think one time it was the pouring rain at Rock the Park in London, and I think it was last spring at Meadows and Fergus. So you're not really one to sit still while you're performing. So what kind of energy, I guess, are you going to be bringing to these live John Shambles shows?
It's definitely a little bit different. I don't really know how it's going to go, to be honest. When we were in Toronto, I kind of stood in one place a lot, but it was just because I was so nervous. So as the nerves start to go away, I think it'll get a little more energetic, but it'll never be as showmany as the Glorious Sons kind of shows are. I got too many guitar parts to play. The songs are naturally kind of not meant to be like that.
Right, exactly. One quote that I read from you about this project that I loved, and you were kind of talking about that you asked for one thing out of life at an early age and it happened. And for 15 years now, it started to become real. You're not a pop star, not a fashion icon. You don't believe in almost anything except for one thing, and that's to create. So does that sum up, I guess, what you're feeling with this project, Brett, and what you want it to portray to the audience?
Yeah, I hate just sitting still and just living. It's just not really what I do well, is going and getting groceries and all this shit, and the dishes pile up, and I sit and I write music. And I was looking at this quote on Instagram the other day, and it's by Camus, and I forget what the actual quote said, but the essence of it is that everybody kind of in your life laughs about how art is the most important thing to your existence when you're an artist. It's like this, even as an artist, you have to find a way to showcase your art kind of through this third wall kind of way. You're always kind of ashamed of that this shit means so much to you. And over the years, I got so sick and tired of waiting around to release music, and then you go on tour and you play your tour, and then you come home, and I just want to release music and live my life and play music and make a bit of money off it. I don't really know what rich Brett would even look like. I don't know what major fame Brett would even look like. It probably wouldn't be very good. I don't think it's very good for people in general. But I guess the ethos of this is just keep making music and keep throwing it out there in the world and do it forever. And hopefully that is enough. And the honest truth of it is I think we're always searching for more as artists, and we're never fulfilled by anything that happens. And I kind of found that throughout my life as being in a popular rock and roll band in Canada, is that you don't really notice the ladder that you're climbing at all. You just kind of wake up and you're just a little higher, and then the next thing you know, you're in COVID and you're just a little bit lower and lower, and the happiest that you ever are is while you're sitting there with your guitar and you're excited about an idea. That is the best feeling in the world. Or when you're looking in the eyes of a fan and you're screaming "Poor Heart" or something like that. Those are the only things that really make you happy in this whole business. The rest of it is fucking phone calls and planning and, no offense, but interviews and all this shit. Yeah. And, like, it doesn't really, like, do that much for you. Like, if anything, it just kind of is a never-ending cycle.
Groundhog Day.
So this is my kind of modest attempt to be happy and at peace with, being able to just release stuff and hope that I look back on it and love it.
I'm certain that your fans and people that listen to music and love music are going to love this from you. And I can't wait for everyone to hear the full album. Cabin Fever by John Shambles. It comes out April 30th, 2026. Brett, man, it's been an absolute pleasure to finally get the chance to chat with you today. I wish you all the best on tour and with the album release. And we'll stay tuned to johnshambles.co for all the updates. So thanks for taking time with me today, Brett.
Thanks, Aaron. Thanks a lot, man.